It's going to live. You will come to know that when it's live.
Okay, great. Well, it's great to be here with you today, Dr. Khan. I'm Kate Chartrand. I'm a certified stress management and life coach, and I specialize in supporting working moms beat burnout and thrive in their lives and relationships. I have a master's degree in family science, and in my program, it covered a wide range of areas. And one of the research areas that I actually focused on was helping adolescents who have high functioning autism develop social and friendship skills so that they could have those important friendships enabled to be able to protect their well-being and to really protect them from mental health issues and other factors that could influence their well-being. And so,
Okay, so
yeah, go ahead.
so but I think you should complete your
Oh, I'm sorry, the connection is not very good right now. Can you repeat what you said?
I'm just saying, I think can you hear me? Okay. The thing is that I would like to ask few questions, but right after you complete your introduction. This is what I just said.
Oh, okay,
Because you
sure.
were talking about
Yeah.
students with eye autism, and because when I contacted you, that was about basically about working mom. Then during our discussion, you tell that you are working with the children who have high function autism, and it's a very problematic area in the sense that they don't know how to, you could say, communicate socially, how to make friendship, and which just because of that, the main area of their life is lacking because they don't feel related to that place. Whenever you go to school, a child must have a friend so that they can do some group activity, so they can do some lunch together. But you may see that children, you know there are a lot of categories in autism as well. The child could mind motor as well but as far as high functioning autism is concerned, the child may not be able to face these issues which other level of autism is facing, but still there is a deficit, and the deficit is in the communication, and which is a you could say now a world is a social world, that you have to do activities in the in the group. There's always some group activity in the class, presentations also in the group. So uh, please tell me, did you work with the children or with the adult as well? So you did both children and adults.
Yes, I also wanted to mention that one of the internships that I did was in a school where I worked with children who had behavior issues or other issues. Some of them were getting tested for autism and definitely showed signs. And so I definitely worked with those children. We worked on social skills and social emotional learning type of skills in order to help them to be able to make friendships more easily. And also in my work
So
at church, I think I've told you before that I'm a leader in our local youth
definitely you told me that
organization.
you.
Yeah, so I'm president of our young women organization at our local church. And one of the young women has high functioning autism. And that's actually what helped me to be interested in focusing on that and researching it so that I could better help her.
Okay. So how she's doing right now, by the way, the girl
Oh,
you're working with.
yeah, she's doing great. I mean, adolescents, no matter what their situation, need, some support with making friendships and developing important social skills. And
True.
so
And I what
it's
you need a
been,
lot of support actually. That's what I would say. It's not just about somebody with high function autism. Other children also need a lot of support actually.
yes, exactly. Not just children or
It's okay, you can
adolescents with
talk.
autism.
I mean, okay.
Yeah,
So
so
okay, let's just talk about children first. Okay,
mhm.
let's just talk about children. Okay. So whenever you go to some school, even if in the preschool, so sometimes how a teacher and the parents can identify that the child have high function autism. I mean, when we talk about autism, most of the time we are looking toward the behavior aspect. That's why I'm asking you that their behavior is not appropriate inappropriate, or their behavior is not according to the age, or their behavior is not according to other children in the class. So how a teacher can identify some kind of issues, so that they can work on that skill, because it's very important. If you go for early intervention, then that's the thing, that you could support that child more, and the child could attain that skill very easily and very effectively. So how a layman can identify these symptoms, or how, and also tell me please that how they can work on these skills as well.
Well, that's a great question. I did some research on how we could teach those social skills, but not necessarily research on how to diagnose those. And so I would
Okay.
definitely not be the one to ask about diagnosis, but I think in general, we see that the communication and social skills are a major aspect of autism. And so when we see that kids are struggling to make eye contact with other kids or with the teacher, then and actually respond, appropriately, then that could be a sign that they need more help with those social skills. Having a hard time with sharing or seeing the other child's point of view when they're playing with toys, things like that. Those could be signs. But I would definitely say if you feel like there's a difference there with the behavior or with social skills, that they should definitely reach out to their support at their school, because they're definitely the school psychologists that can diagnose those issues.
And over there I was just not just saying how you can diagnose, but my point was that you always feel that that child is different from other child, but how could you say, for example, like you mentioned, that the child is not able to share his toy? That is the main thing. They have issue in the sharing. Even they sometimes they even don't share their own things with their family member as well. But over here we are talking about some social aspects, some place, some setting which is a social setting. So over there's a school, because there will be one pot, and in which you have to dip the mark, the paintbrush, and you have to color it. So it's a group activity. The child is not doing that activity. Second thing is, you have to wait for your turn. If it's a game thing, the child is not able to wait for that, and the child will just abruptly jump and just go away. Second thing is, you need to sit in a place for longer period of time, and the child would not able to sit in a chair for the longer period of time, because he has some, these are because they are impulsive children, and their children could be destructive as well. Then the other thing could be self-injurious behavior. The one aspect could be just because of their impulse. When a child is overwhelmed with a lot of things, because when there's a group of a lot of people child, and there's a lot of noise, because young, children used to cry a lot in the classroom, and they will make a lot of the noise, and they will, when they will cheer up. So whenever such situation occurs, the child could get, impulsive, and he may push some child as well, or maybe he start banging his head, and these are different things which a teacher could identify. But the thing is that what a teacher could do to engage that child in the classroom. I mean, maybe there are certain things which is the child need to go to some therapist, some school psychologist. Okay, but over here we are talking about integration. There should be some activities for the child which a teacher could use to integrate that child. So I'm asking about these activity, what or these steps or these tips, what she could do to integrate her child in the classroom.
Oh, yes, that's great. Um, well, what we did was we actually would pull them out. I worked with the counselor, and we would actually pull them out into small group sessions and teach the small groups these social skills. But then, of course, they were integrated into their classroom, and it's important for the teachers to know what was taught and to reinforce that. So, if we taught sharing in the small group sessions, then the teacher could give opportunities for that child to practice sharing in the classroom. And like you said, sometimes in groups, it can be scary for them. So maybe pulling two children aside and saying, "Oh, can you two share these toys?" That might be more effective than just integrating them into the large group without that special needed attention.
So yes, you might be right that maybe if we because there are lot of, because in pre-schooling, for example, it's playgroup or it's a foundation class, children might not be diagnosed. But if we talk about preschool, sometimes a child is of 2 years of age. So as we all know, when you talk about autism, that then at a certain level, when a child start deteriorating a lot of skills. So maybe a child is performing very well, and maybe the child is communicating as well. When the child reaches to a certain age, that is 3 years of age, then the child start going backward, and teaching parents don't understand what is going on with that child. So I think that should be what you could do is you need to keep an eye on your child, because whenever such things occur, you always know that there's something not you could say according to the age of the child, or communication is not proper, the child is not telling his need, not so when we talk about social environment is more demanding. And I think it's very difficult for a teacher to take that child in a separate group. She should make some, you could say, she need to go to extra mile to help that child. What do you think about that? Because I think she should have some kind of, you could say, some training, because I think that should be part of the mandatory of the education system as well. If you want to be a teacher, then you should know these problems are already there and how you can deal this, because taking out of these children in the school is not a solution. And I have a lot of parents came to me and they say their child is not allowed in the school anymore. There could be even some incident and the child is not allowed in the school because maybe the child hit some child, or maybe he did something else, maybe the child is teasing teacher. So I think
Oh, I think we lost the connection again. Dr. Khan? Oh, there you are.
you can talk actually. I'm just mentioning that if you see that the picture is getting blurred, even then you can talk because your voice is clear even then. So you can continue
Oh,
your
okay.
talk.
Okay, yeah, something that actually what my research was focused on was adolescents with high functioning autism. And what we find is that a lot of times these kids are, um, they have a very high intellect and they can do well in their academic studies. And so
Yeah, they
they
have
are integrated
some kind of
into
that.
the school system. They go to regular classes a lot of times, but that means that often they can be ignored, and the school doesn't realize that they still need extra support, particularly with communication and friendship skills. And so often they can't communicate it, but they crave friendships, just like all adolescents do. But it's much harder a lot of times for them to make those friendships. And um, so I researched different programs that provided those communication and social skills to adolescents. And the best ones actually um, integrated volunteers that were students and teaching those student volunteers about autism, about what to expect and how to support their peers that have autism, and to be able to encourage and coach them while they're practicing these social skills in a fun type of club environment. And so I tried to do that with our young woman that is in our youth organization. And I found that it has been very successful. She started out with coming to our home and practicing in our home along with my teens. I have some teens in my home. And so doing that really helped more than just if I was the only person helping her, as the adult, because it's easier for her to talk to me as an adult. So it just wouldn't be the same, right? So having peer to peer conversations and practicing that is really important with peers who are familiar with people with autism and that they need more encouragement. They need help with the social cues, maybe more than other kids. And so I found that was effective, the one on one and the small groups, and then actually inviting her to our activities every week was a big step for her, but that has continued to help her to grow and to be able to develop the friendships that she has craved.
Okay. So I would like to ask something else as well. Maybe you might notice this, that a lot of time, because when we talk about autism, it goes under diagnosed or the classic autism. A lot of time it goes underdiagnosed. People are not able to get the sign, the symptoms, because if you talk about a child, even if you talk about a girl, the girl might seem very quiet, the might girl seem very obedient, and when you talk about autism, then they learn how to imitate, and they also learn how to mask. So masking is playing a lot of role, but problem come when they encounter some real life situation. So if a child is underdiagnosed or a adult is under, because underdiagnosed when the child is adult as well, because these autism is not going anywhere. The child will stay with that autism for the rest of his life, just like other physical condition, maybe some other physical condition as well. So if it goes underway and somehow they came to you, then it's important, because you said that you study family
Okay, what was your question?
so did you get my question, or should I repeat again?
Oh no, can you repeat that, please?
Okay, I'm saying that you said that you study family sciences. Okay, so sometimes the child goes underdiagnosed, and there are a lot of factors, and it could be any factor. So when you somehow understand that, because you're working with group as well, like you're saying you're in a supportive group as well, so how you're going to communicate that thing to the family, because definitely they will ask you to help that child because they're coming to you. So how you communicating these two things to the family, and now you're helping family to work with that child, because communication is part of daily life, and a child have to communicate at home as well. So how you're helping these families to deal these children at home?
Oh, yes, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up because that was another important factor, not only to have the peer-to-peer conversations and help, but to have the family also supporting the progress of the child. And so, what they can do is just to provide the families with information each time about what they covered and have the parents practice with them at home as well. And so, with this young woman, I would let the dad know what we covered a lot of times and encourage them to practice that skill at home. Encourage him to help her to find different social groups that she could be involved in, in the community, where she could practice those skills and gain friendships that she wanted. And so, definitely, it's important to keep the parents in the loop on what you are teaching the child and also encouraging them to practice that at home every day.
Okay, so it means that we have to take parents on the board as well when we are working with children. That's what I'm getting. And you say, I think it's
Yes.
important part as well, because change do not come in isolation. You have to provide support, and on every aspect. It's not just school. It's not just a playground. It's not just a community center. It could be anywhere, because a child have to go to this market. And I'm working with a girl, and she said that I'm not able to take ask for the change back if I give the shopkeeper 1,000 rupees. So I will, if and even if now I'm buying a bread, maybe the bread costs 100 or 200 rupees or something like that, I will leave 800 rupees to that person. I don't have that much courage to ask him, please give my change back. And I'm sure the shopkeeper, they might be happy that, oh, we earned today. And that is different thing. But the thing is that she was not able to ask what is her right. I mean, what is the right thing? It's not just about other communication, but she might have to ask that, please give me back the change. So that is a simple example of this communication, that the deficit in the communication, that they don't even know how to communicate their wants and needs. For example,
Yes.
that girl
In real life.
yes, in real life. And that girl told me that she want to eat something special. I mean, she's hungry for something, and due to some certain reason, she was not able to eat in the morning time, and she was not able to eat in the university as well. So she went home, and she was hungry for the whole day.
Hmm.
She said that I was not able to talk to my mother that how I'm very hungry, or the food you cook is very limited for me. So these are things which are real life problems we need to talk about, and we need to teach our children and our as well. So when a child has deficit in these things, and family is all good, I think the life get easier for these children and these adults as well. And okay, I would like to ask something else as well. Another question: but for the boys, for girl, both, for both, it is sensitive. It's not just about the individual with autism, it's for other adult as well. So how do you think you're going to help adult with autism to have a smooth a smooth era of that period? Because
Oh, I'm sorry, it broke up. Can you repeat that?
autism is different for the girls and for the boy as well. So how you can help a child, because he's a child, he's a adult, he's getting into a new phase of life, and there are a lot of hormonal rush in that child life. So how you can help a child with autism to go through that phase smoothly?
Oh, that's a great question. I think like what we had talked about before, having those support systems in place is really important. And having the family and the school team, work as a team to provide that support for the child. I also really believe strongly in community support. So, not even just the school, but see what community organizations and groups are there to support children with autism, or not even just children with autism, but any children, so that they can have those times outside of school where they can develop those skills that they need.
I think we lose you. I want you to repeat what you said before. You're talking about community organization, community health. Sorry, I would
Yeah.
like to ask, repeat that what you said.
Yes, exactly. And like, I talked about my youth organization and organizations like that can help provide the support, because we know parents can't do it all themselves. It's a huge load for any parents to try to raise their kids by themselves. And so it definitely takes a village. And I, like you mentioned earlier, we also need to develop more awareness in the community, not just the teachers to be trained, but anybody who works with children or adolescents with autism. I think it's important for them to understand it and to understand how they can best help these children, because I think a lot of times there's this lack of awareness and kind of this uncertainty of, oh, how should I, you know, treat this child? What can I do to help them? And kind of not really knowing what to do. So that's something that I've been trying to do in my
Okay,
youth
I would like to ask you
organization.
something.
Hmm.
True.
Yeah,
Okay.
just trying to teach the other leaders and the other young women about autism, and the need that these kids have to develop friendships, but that they can struggle with that. And so we just need to have some extra care and concern for them, and really do more than we
I would
might
like to
usually
ask.
do to reach out to others.
This is okay. So I would like to ask you about parenting aspect, because you also mentioned in your introduction when we met last time that you also have Asian, origin. So the Asian parenting is different than the parenting you are right now at the moment. Like in Houston, it might be different. I think it is different. So, do you think that some form of parenting is playing some role in raising the children, or you need to change somehow.
Are you talking about in general with all kids?
Yes, I'm talking about general. Then we will come with a specific thing, because if you're working with mothers on with autism or with not autism, because as we talk about adolescent, it's a challenging time period. So first we will talk about adolescent, then we go toward autism as well.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned a lot about parenting these years. I was definitely raised in a more traditional um, Chinese household. Both my parents are Chinese, and it was more of the authoritarian, you know, type of parenting. And so in my own parenting, I've had to discover for myself what works best. And it is important to really understand each child and each child's needs because we definitely have to parent a little bit differently according to how that child is. And so this applies to all children, you know, not just those on the spectrum. And so I found, even though there are differences, you know, there are these basic principles that we
We're having some
follow.
issue with
You
the
know, the
internet, and
unconditional love and support for each child. They need to know that we love them no matter what their behavior is, no matter what they do. But then at the same time, making sure that they understand that there are limits. And so being loving but firm about what those limits are and teaching them what appropriate behaviors are, modeling that for them. And so, you know, the consequences of not following those limits, of course, are going to vary according to what the parents believe and what they feel is appropriate for their child. But the concepts all stay the same, the unconditional love, but also having loving limits. And when possible, having their child, you know, uh, work as a team with them to figure out what works best.
so yes, you're very much right that. But the thing is that, can you teach these children how to, develop the boundaries? Because I think it's very important to develop the boundaries in the relationship, whether it's with parent, it's with other kids, even it's with, sibling or pair, or in a social as well aspect as well. Because I think these children fail to develop the boundaries. They don't know their own boundaries, they don't know their own limitation, and then the limitation of other children. So how can we teach these children to set some boundaries?
Oh, great question. Well, I know with the young children that I worked with, we would do a lot of role playing. And so even when we were talking about sharing a toy, you know, then we would just model that for them or show some video that showed that and then have them practice that, you know, just take a random toy and say, um, you know, can you ask for that toy nicely? You know, and things like that. So that works really well with young kids, right? And then if you see that they're still struggling to keep the boundaries, like maybe it's hitting another child or something like that, where they're hurting someone, then we need to also role play what will happen if that, you know, if you hit that child, then I will have to take you out of the room and we'll need to go take a break for a few minutes, you know, whatever it is. But making sure that they understand clearly what the boundary is, as well as what the consequence is for violating the boundary. That applies to any age child, right? So even with the teens, you know, it's important to talk with the teen about, okay, if you get home after curfew, let's talk about what is going to happen as a consequence of that. And of course, the older they
So
get,
you talk.
the more they can collaborate with you on what the plan is.
Yes, and you talk about role play. I think role play is very important in teaching a lot of things. It's not just about, communication and setting boundaries, but, socialization in general. It is always very helpful, because when you say, if you talk about, the children with autism or a lot of other people, because who don't understand the consequences of their behavior, when you add this thing into role play, then they understand that if you are going to do that, then that would be the consequence. Because a lot of time people don't understand, even in teacher children don't understand whether they're adults or whether they're in younger age, that behavior have some consequences. So if they understand that behavior have consequences, so they start taking responsibility of their own behavior, and it would make them confident person as well. So if, for example, a child hit person, a child in the classroom, what could be the, the consequence of their behavior? I mean, whether you said that you just give a time out to the child, even then he have to say sorry to the person, like, because that's how he violate the boundaries, because you need to teach the child appropriate behavior as well. So how you going to how you integrate these things in your role playing, or community that you are working with, to just because it's not okay, it's the thing that child is violating something, or the behavior inappropriate, but we have to make that behavior appropriate as well. So how you do these things?
Oh, yes, that is really an important point. We have to not only say this is not appropriate, but we want to definitely highlight this is appropriate behavior. So, like if a child hits another child, then we might gently grab their hand and say, we use hands for soft touch and demonstrate soft touch, not hitting. And so it is good to pair that with what is the appropriate behavior, because especially young children, they will understand much better if we say this is what you can do instead of saying no, you can't do this. Right? Their brains work a lot better if if they can understand what they can do. And so things like that are very important to teach. And so even in the moment, we can say, that's not respectful. We want to say this instead. And even just modeling it in the moment can help.
Yes, and I think if you ask other children to show the child how appropriate touch is, or I mean, appropriate way of asking for something, asking for the toy. Maybe the child learn that a better way. That if I ask someone nicely, please can you give me that toy? So the child will get that toy and instead of getting creating a scene or feeling these, when a child is impulsive, then they are acting on their impulses. They afterward they think about the thing that what we have done, it might be wrong, because at the end of the day people have idea what they did wrong. And how you get to know, because whenever you see the reaction of the other people that they're not pleasant reaction, then you get the idea in any way that that act was wrong. So the child went to stage of guilt. So I think we can prevent the guilt of the child by teaching him appropriate way at the moment, because when we talk about teaching a child something, if we teach that child at the moment when he was wrong, so that will the child will able to understand that, oh, I can improve that behavior as well. How could you teach a child if a child behaves something in 3 or 4 days before and told him that you did something wrong at that time? So a lot of things come in between that way. And if we and maybe you could say the frequency, or the you could say the worth of your teaching, the worth of your you could say that great word is like the strategy which you're planning for the child, maybe not working the way if it would have worked when you go to the past. So I think timely working on things are very important, because the child understand that if I do something wrong, then I have to bear the consequence as well, and then automatically you are conditioning that thing with appropriate behavior. So at that moment when you condition something with a good thing and eliminate some bad thing, then it's a part of learning in the long run. I think you would agree to that thing as well.
Yes, it's definitely important to focus on teaching. And so I am certified as a positive discipline educator, and discipline is often seen as something negative, like punitive, but really, discipline means to teach. So we're teaching the child appropriate behavior. Sometimes we do need to give consequences, but really the most important thing is to teach out of love what the appropriate behavior is. And of course, it's going to be a lot easier if you catch it earlier rather than later, right? So, like if you see a young child taking a toy from another child, before it starts getting into this big fight, where they're hitting each other, we want to try to step in and say, oh, let's give the toy back. And this is how we can ask nicely. May I have the toy? So um, trying to really sense when there's a conflict and stepping in, and using that as a teaching opportunity is a really important thing. And like you said, we don't want to guilt the child or make them feel bad about themselves when they do, misbehave. And so, yeah, definitely focusing on the positive. And also, we find that if children continue to misbehave, constantly, then that can actually be a sign that you need to step back and really focus on some positive attention and really helping them to feel that love and connection with you, because that can actually make a bigger difference in improving their behavior than anything else that you try to do.
And the thing is that you need to see why a child is behaving in certain. I was in a conversation in the morning with some person, and he was constant. He was an expert, and he was constantly talking about one thing, that you need to see the reason why the child is behaving in certain way. For example,
Yes.
if we talk about autism, temper tantrums are coming. Maybe the child is hungry at the moment, so that's how he start crying, because maybe that was his learned behavior in the early childhood, that he might not have the words, but the cry was the only way of communication with the environment. So that's how he developed that behavior, that if I cry, then I will get that thing. So with time the need change, but behavior stay with that child. So there's always a need for everything. So for example, you talk about the toys, maybe the child want to play with that child, maybe the child wants your attention, but if the behavior is going beyond some boundaries, we have to draw boundaries around everything. If the child is constantly doing something, like you mentioned, that if the child is constantly misbehaving with you, so then you need to check why the child is doing that, but it's wrong actually. And maybe the child is disturbed due to some reason. Maybe the child want attention because mother is somehow not able to pay attention to that child. It could be anything, but at the end of the discussion, or you could say the conclusion of this all discussion could be that you need to check actually why a child is behaving in a certain way. Because if you are teaching someone, then it's your responsibility. He's in your responsibility. The child
Yes.
is responsible. I mean, you're responsible to teach a good thing to the child. That's how teaching is. Teaching is not like you're teaching somebody A, B, C, X, Y, Z, or numbers and color and stuff like that. You're actually a person who is responsible for character building as well. So I think if you start understanding these things, then maybe, because at the end of the day, who is going to benefit more from that thing? If a child behavior is good, that would be you. You will have a good class to teach, and you're giving some good example to other people as well, that if you start doing better, good, then definitely the environment is very good, and the environment is more supportive to you. And second thing, I would also like to ask a thing, that you talk about the discipline, and you said it could be, but don't you think so we are using negative reinforcement in acting, in teaching other children discipline? What is your opinion?
Negative
Instead of punishment
reinforcement.
actually.
Uh, like
Yeah,
what kind of negative reinforcement?
let me tell you, reinforcement is, if you want to tell a child that behavior is a good way, then you offer something to that child. That is one way.
Mhm.
Negative means you take his favorite toy from that child, so
Okay,
that he
right.
learned that. And that the reason of taking that thing from the child would be that you want to strengthen his behavior in a better way. And if you talk about punishment, then you want to eliminate something from that child. And sometimes people start, punishment could be take money from him, or you could say not allowing child go to outside, or giving him that you might grounded that child at the home. Like, it's some extreme form which could be negative for the child as well. And researches shows that if you teach somebody through negative response instead of punishment, then the child could learn that thing, and it could stay with that child for longer period of time. It will become part of his behavior as well. So that's how I'm saying that. So
Yeah,
are
I
you?
think with
I think you get the idea of negative.
yes, yes. I think with any kind of consequence or reinforcement, the attitude of the parent is really the determining factor. So if if you're giving your child a reward and you're doing it to try to control them or manipulate them, then of course that's not going to be positive. Or if you only
Oh,
give
well said.
them love, if they behave well, that's not going to be positive for them either, right? And so I think we, like we've said earlier, we need to have this attitude of teaching the child, like you're teaching them what appropriate behavior is, but with this underlying unconditional love and respect for your child, no matter what they do. And so it might be positive reinforcement. It might be as soon as this gets done, then we get to go outside and play. Or it might be negative, where you say, well, this didn't get done, so we can't go outside and play, or we can't watch this show, whatever it is. I think it is just all about your attitude and what you're trying to do. Are you trying to teach your child, or are you trying to control them or make them feel bad about
Yeah.
themselves?
And sometimes things go other way around, and the child start to understand how to control it, because you're teaching some child a skill to control him. So if you think, because yesterday I was giving a interview to some girl, and she asked me how you will, what is the level of your checking that the therapy is going well or not, or how, and which client you would not take. I told her that it's my job to work with the client, and I cannot say no to any client, but there are certain things which I cannot go beyond. For example, if a parent child if a person is not agree that he wants therapy and he don't understand the need of therapy, I cannot make him understand that thing until he is willing to come to me. One thing is that. Second thing, if I am working with the child and I am working for the best interest of the child, but a parent came to me and they want me to teach a child a certain thing, like they give you a checklist that we want our child to do these things, and maybe these things are not in the best interest of the child. Like, I told her that if you are working with a child, you should not only for the parent. First thing is betterment for the child. So I will definitely do those things, and I will put my ego on the side, and I will put that when the child continue, start putting their efforts, it's mean that they are manipulating you. So I think you don't need to go further with that parents or further with that child, because no matter how you bad feel about that thing, but you cannot work with that child because it's useless. You're teaching something a child in a classroom, in a therapeutic room, and the child is doing opposite at home. So I think you should not
Mm.
put your energy over there, and it is useless for the child as well, because one day the child is trying to manipulate. The child will learn how to manipulate their parents, and that's what is going nowadays. I think most teen understand that how to control their parents, how to manipulate their parents, and I think that's why nowadays parenting is very challenging. Right? What is your opinion about that?
Yes, I think it is really important to be on the same team, So if the parents are doing something different than what you teach, then that's really not a good partnership there, right? So it definitely needs to be a partnership where you're both on board with teaching the same concepts, and the same methods, same techniques, so that that can reinforce, each other instead of the child trying to manipulate the system. So yeah, the communication is key, really, and whatever support systems the child has in place, we need to make sure that we're all communicating so that we're all on the same page and that we all have the child's best interests at heart.
That's the point. Because over here, who is a victim, and who is affecting more? That is the child. And as a parent, it is responsible until the child is of 18 years age, or maybe afterward, as if the child is some form of autism. If the child is coming to you in the class, then the child is your responsibility. So you cannot raise your hand that no, that child is the problem child. We are not going to. I'm not going to touch that child. I have seen people doing these things. I have seen people. I've seen teachers going to admin that they said, "I'm not going to teach that child in my classroom. Please take out that child, or please change my place." So people are maybe you could say stick to that person. Any child in any area, just like about mental health condition. If you're going to make fun of somebody who have mental health condition, so you are also prone to that condition as well. You can have that issues in your life as well. So karma, you will get what you are planting. So do you think people are going to support when you have some, when you need some kind of emotional support? So things goes both way around. So I think, as you said earlier, that we need to be on the same page, and the thing is that if we want to, you could say, if you want to, save the future of a child, then I think we need to do these efforts. And I think as a teacher, as a therapist, it's our responsibility. Because I think maybe sometimes we think that about that, okay, how much we are earning on that thing. When at certain level of your life, you don't think about these things, but you think about what you are giving to the society. Because I'm talking to you about these things because you're already doing these things. You're already in a support group, you're supporting mother, you're with some certain organization, you build a support group for the mother, for community, and for people, for the mother who are in stress. So I think you're doing very great over there. And at any age of life, because everybody needs some help. So I think support group is a good way to initiate this thing, and to communicate this problem as well. Because those ladies who are coming to someday they will become a parents, and someday they will see a child in same condition. So maybe if they were part of that discussion, so they might give some good advice to their people, and they might even tell them, okay, if your child have some issue, why don't you go and consult some psychologist, some therapist, or some life coach. So I think that's how you could nurture your own self. Because if you talk about nurturing, so I think it's a good thing. And I would say that you're doing a very great work over there, and supporting this individual. And thank you so much for coming to my conversation today. That was lovely talking to you. And you would like to, I think you would like to add up in this discussion.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Khan. It was a great opportunity to speak with you and to just help the public gain more awareness of how we can help strengthen our children, our adolescents, those with autism and those without. It really is a partnership with all those involved. We all have our kids' best interests at heart, and we need to really communicate with whoever is helping and supporting these children so that they really can thrive and have really optimal development in their lives.
And secondly, and I would also like to thank you, because agreeing on something and giving, taking your time and having some such kind of discussion. Maybe you might know these things already, and maybe I know few things because I'm working. But I I think a lot of people will watch these discussion, and they will gain some first hand experience that, oh, okay, these are some real life problem. So there is some place where we can take some, because a lot of parents come to me and they will ask, do you think, I think it's just happening with me. I have a case, and the case, the client has some different kind of problem, some unique issue, I would say, a different issue. So he asked me yesterday, doctor, what do you felt when you talked to me first time? Do you think that my problem is genuine, or you not genuine, but unique problem? So did you get scared, or did you get scared of me, or did you get astonished that what kind of things I'm communicating to you? So that person was so scared to even talk to me about the problem he was facing. So then, and how we can prevent these things. I mean, how we can encourage people come to us for support by having such discussions, by talking about these problems. And these are real life problems. The point is that these are real life problems. These are general problems, and everybody might face these things in their certain area of age of life. It's not about autism. It's not about but you might face issues at any age of your life. Maybe you just because of over discussion with something. Maybe you're occupied with something and you did not behave in some place, maybe appropriately. But without taking guilt, maybe you can change your behavior, and even you can change the behavior of the child as well. Because a lot of times moms are thinking that, how are you going to change our child behavior? We raise our hand, we don't know what to do with that child, because the child is very naughty, the person is very naughty, the person is not listening to us. And the adult, if we talk about adult, they're not listening to us, they don't want to communicate to us, they lock their room, and they're not talking to us. So what we are going to do? If we have these discussions on regular basis, maybe a mother finds some way to reach out to that child, or maybe she finds some place to take her child to that place, so that we change the life in a better way. Because this is what we are doing, because we are therapist, we are coach, and that's what we do to change life of someone. So I think you're doing something very noble, and
Yes, it is. It is such important work.
thank you so much for coming to my calendar. I can hear you, don't worry. I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, you were breaking up. But yeah, it is so important. And
It's okay.
I started out as a parenting coach, and then I transitioned to stress management and life coaching for moms because I found that really that was the most impactful part for myself, is focusing on myself, my own mental health and wellness. And then that in turn helped me to become a better mom and to just thrive in on all areas of my life. And so I think that, yeah, as we work with parents and they might be struggling with their child, well, we can also work with those parents individually and make sure that their well being is being taken care of, because that is such a huge part of being able to take care of their children successfully.
Yes, and you give a very good point over because you're working with mothers, so you know the idea, and you know the first-hand experience that those mothers who are working, who are contented in themselves, who are working on their own self, whose own mental health is in check, then they are good mother and they are able to help their children very well, and they're able to
Yes,
maintain the whole household activity as well. So it's good that they, because at the end of the day, if you're not okay, how you're going to take care of your child? That is the point, and that's where
exactly.
problems start creating, because you are putting your own trauma on the children. That is, and you cannot, and you're doing it unintentionally. You don't know you're doing, but you're doing that because trauma runs in
Yes.
family, and you might agree to that point. Trauma runs in family. It's a kind, and abuse also runs in family. So it's a kind of
Hmm.
a cycle, a vicious cycle, and you don't know
Right.
that when you're getting into that thing, and it's a cycle running around you. So it's better to take some help, or it's better to talk about your problem. You could have someone, you could talk to, you can go to some support, like you have a support group in your own area, and talk about your issue, so that you you want to be a better mom, and you want to take care of your child better. So at a certain age, that is like midlife crisis and stuff like that, then you will start thinking about what you did wrong with yourself and what you did wrong with your child. So I think before going to that optimum level of, you could say, of stressor or burnout condition, if you work on your own self, then it's good uh, to prevent a lot of things. And I think we are losing each other again.
Yes. Yes, definitely. I
Can you
completely
hear
agree.
me? I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so again, thank you so
Okay.
much. I will again,
Thank you, Dr. Khan. It
I
was
will
great
again
to be with
ask
you
you to
again.
like that, because it's learning from the other therapist as well. I think it's a good, you could say, opportunity to learn from other other
Yes.
cultures as well. So thank you so much from the Pakistan side to coming to us and sharing your own valuable information. And see you soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Khan.
Thank you. See you soon.